Hello listeners, once again it's Ifan Yobi. I'll be talking on the timing of structures. This episode will focus on faults. So I'll be doing a brief sketch of a cross section. Supposing we have two faults. Alright, let's call this unit A and B. Remember these are normal faults. Then we'll call this faults 1 and faults 2. And go ahead and put some colors. Okay, so supposing these beds are Miocene in age, Miocene and Pliocene in age. Okay, so the idea is to focus on the thicknesses of the beds across each fault. So if we focus on fault 1, for example, if you look at the bed A and bed B, so you observe that bed A shows significant thickening across the faults. So it's kind of thinner on the foot wall and thicker on the hanging wall. Right, so each time we observe a significant thickening across a fault for a unit like this, it tells us that that fault was active at the same time that this stratigraphic unit was being deposited. So if we look at the thickness of B, for example, we see that it's pretty pretty much same thickness across the fault. That means that by the time interval B was being deposited, the fault was no longer active. So in other words, fault 1 had been triggered sometime in the Miocene at the same time that interval A was being deposited. Alright, so if we move our attention to fault 2, again the idea is to compare thicknesses of the beds across the faults 2. So if we look at the foot wall again of fault 2, which is to our right, we see that bed A has maintained its thickness as we move from the foot wall on our right to the hanging wall on the left. However, for bed B, we see that as we go from the foot wall to the hanging wall, we see a significant change in thickness, and that tells us that fault 2 was active at the same time that the bed B or unit B was being deposited. So in other words, fault 2 was triggered during the Pliocene. Now this section just tells us that both faults are not of the same age. One of them predates the other. They are not actually triggered at the same time. So fault 1 had formed in Miocene, which is older, and that's because we see a thickness increase in the Miocene stratigraphic units across the faults, while fault 2 had been triggered in Pliocene, again driven from the thickness change across the fault for the stratigraphic units, which is unit B.